A day to remember for the rest of your lives.
There's a great promise for all of you.
The Pro Football Hall of Fame and Extreme Networks present the Heart of a Hall of Famer program. With nearly 100 Hall of Famers participating, we have reached 48 states around this country, sharing the message that football is more than a game and can teach Americans how to huddle up during a time when we need to be united.
It's time for America to take a real deep dive. Not at no one else, but at yourself individually. If you want to change America, don't brush your teeth with your head down. Look at who you are and be the example. Be the example.
An opportunity to meet and learn from one of the greatest football players of all time. But more than that, the chance to see that their Hall of Fame life wasn't given to them. Single-parent homes, drug-infested neighborhoods, and poverty.
I grew up in a neighborhood that was considered one of the worst in America, and the household I grew up in was one of the worst in that neighborhood. By the time I was 20 years old, I knew at least 30 friends or family members who had lost their lives. Football became like a second parent to me. It taught me the things that my father wasn't there to teach me, and that my mother, as a struggling, single-parent woman, just didn't know to teach me.
But they learn how to live a life of character before pursuing their football careers. Today, you will learn you can do the same that they once did. Making good decisions can lead to a prosperous life both on and off the field. Your game for life has already begun. It's your decision whether or not you want to be a successful student, son, daughter, brother, or sister.
Every one of you can have a Hall of Fame life, whether or not you play football. You can be as great as you want to be. The Hall of Fame is all about integrity, character, and excellence. You have the opportunity to represent yourself that way. You determine your character.
Welcome to a once-in-a-lifetime program, The Heart of a Hall of Famer.
We mentioned the Hall of Fame values: commitment, integrity, courage, respect, excellence. Is there one of those five that maybe means a little bit more to you and impacted you throughout your career?
Well, as I look at that, they're all very important. But I think if you use the word commitment, I think all those other ones come into play. I think if you say you're going to be committed to something, you can't only talk about be committed. You got to put that word into action. A lot of people can say, I'm committed to being a great friend, a great husband, a great football player, but unless you take the steps to actually do that, if you actually become a person of integrity, and while you're chasing that commitment, want to be committed, you do things the right way. Do things with integrity. You respect yourself, you respect others, you respect whatever you're going to do. And you have the courage, the courage that if you're going to be committed, there's going to be times where you're going to fail. You're not going to do things the right way. You're not going to be successful every single time. So you want to have courage. You want to, as you saw Tony Dungy talked about getting knocked down, not only on the football field, but in life. A lot of times when I talk, I say, I talk about adversity. And I don't say, if you go through some adversity. I always say, when you go through some adversity, how are you going to handle it? Because I don't think I've ever met anyone that's been successful or done a lot of things in their life where they haven't gone through some adversity. So, in a long way, I'd say probably commitment is the one word of these, but they're all very important.
All right, enough of my questions. Here's your opportunity. How many times do you get an opportunity to talk to a Hall of Famer? So the microphone is set up. Again, state your name, the school you represent, and then your question for Anthony Muñoz. We've got our first question in the back, so go ahead.
Hello, my name is Clay Harvey. I'm from Norwayne High School. My question is, Tony Gonzalez, NFL legend, was recently named as one of the 102nd modern era nominees for election to the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2019. As an accomplished Hispanic player, American player yourself, what was it like to watch his career and the impact he has had on the Hispanic community?
Well, I know Tony's going to be wearing a gold jacket soon. I always enjoyed watching Tony, knowing his background, knowing that he's from Southern California. He's a Pac-10 guy. He played not only football at Cal Berkeley, but he also played basketball. So first of all, that tells me he's an unbelievable athlete. And watching him through college and, of course, in the NFL, very distinguished career, and he's doing a lot of good things in the community. So my respect has grown immensely since I've gotten to know him and see that he does quite a bit in the community. So he had a great career, and he's done a lot for the community.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Our next student, step on up.
My name's Nate Bitskay, and I'm also from Norway High School, and my question is, when did you know that you had to walk away from the game?
So when I got a chance to play for the Bengals, now you have to understand, that wasn't something that was a given when I was in college, because my 4 years at USC, I had 3 knee operations. So you heard a lot about the different character values, adversity, perseverance, things, diligence. I suffered my 3rd knee injury my senior year in college. I only played 1 game. So the appreciation and the thankfulness I had for even getting drafted in the NFL and playing 13 years, one of the things I told myself, that I love the game so much, I enjoyed every part of it. I enjoyed working out. I enjoyed studying film, working on technique, and of course, I loved playing the game, is I told myself when I got to a point, and I lived about 20 miles north of Cincinnati, and I used to drive down 71 to practice every day. I told myself, when I'm driving down 71 and I feel like I'm going to work, it's time to get out. And my 13th year, prior to my 13th year, I felt like it was work. I still enjoyed it. I still, played at a high level, but it was more work than it was, a game and fun for me. So I knew that then, and then a couple injuries I had. So I retired, and I knew it was time to move on.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, and a shout out to Norwayne for being here today too. First 2 questions, so welcome to the Hall of Fame city. Yeah, young man, go ahead with your question.
Hi, my name is Christos Simonides, and I represent Canton McKinley Senior High School. My question is, who was the first Hall of Famer to congratulate you when news broke that you made it to the Hall of Fame? Wow,
that's a great question, because I was out in San Diego when that happened. I really don't remember, because unlike now where you have the selection process at Super Bowl, you have the finalists there, you get notice that you've made the Hall of Fame, then that night they have the honors dinner, and there was about 20, 30 of us there at the honors dinner. When they announced the class, we all go up and and congratulate the guys. It wasn't like that 20 years ago when I went in, so I don't remember, because I got word in San Diego, and I don't remember the first Hall of Famer that I saw that congratulated me before I came up to Canton for induction weekend. I was there with the press. I was there with the Hall of Fame staff. So I really can't remember the first Hall of Famer that congratulated me before I came up to Hall of Fame weekend. Once I came up to Hall of Fame weekend, there was all kinds of Hall of Famers that were here, and that was pretty exciting to be around the guys.
Thank you for your question, young man. Next young gentleman, go ahead.
My name is Trenton Hill. I'm from Camp McKinley High School. My question is, when you first came to the NFL, was there a veteran player who mentored you or a player you tried to be like?
When I got to Cincinnati, I looked around, because, you come in as a rookie, you want to see how guys practice, how guys carry themselves now as professionals. And we had a running back that, for those of you who are Ohio State fans, should know this name, the only 2-time Heisman Trophy winner, Archie Griffin. He was on the team, and very professional. And I looked at him, and I saw the way he practiced. I saw the way he carried himself on the field and off the field. And that taught me a lot about how to be a professional. And I had a couple other guys. Isaac Curtis was a wide receiver. I saw how he practiced and how he played. But Archie, probably on the field and off the field, was the one example that I looked at and taught me a lot about how to carry myself in the NFL.
Thank you for your question. We continue with the students' questions. Step up close to the microphone. Name, school, and your question. Go ahead.
My name is Sam Miller, and I represent Canton McKinley. And my question is, besides being inducted into the Hall of Fame, what do you consider your greatest accomplishment and why?
Wow, that's a great question. because there's probably 2 or 3 that I have right up there on the top. Of course, my greatest decision, my greatest accomplishment has to be my faith, my commitment to Christ 40 years ago as a sophomore in college. That same year, I got married to my wife and present wife, my only wife, Dee Dee, for 40 years. So the fact that she's put up with me 40 years is probably my greatest accomplishment. But no, and of course, my son Michael is here, and we have a daughter. You know, I'm thankful that we've been able to Michael now works here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So those are some accomplishments that I'm thankful that I've had a chance to be a part of. So, you know, along with the you know, being a Hall of Famer, those are probably the most, probably the best ones that I can name and give you.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Before we get to our next question from a student, family first is something we hear a lot. And not only your immediate family, like you said, with your wife, your son, and your daughter, but once you're part of a football team, that's your second family, right? And we heard David Baker talking about the love that you gain going through football and being part of a football team. Loving your teammates, respecting your teammates is huge, isn't it?
It's very big. I mean, I think that's how you come together as a team. You develop that camaraderie, that togetherness, that family. And how many times, I shared this the other day, I love watching the post-game interviews after a team wins a championship. Because how many times do you hear the players, the coaches talk about how this team is like a family? And it really is. A couple weeks ago, we had a chance. The Bengals opened up on Thursday night, and we celebrated 30 years from the year we went to the Super Bowl. We had 45 guys from that Super Bowl team, 20-plus guys that still live in Cincinnati that I see all the time, 20-plus guys that were flown in for the game. And even though it had been 30 years since we went to that Super Bowl, it felt like it was weeks. You know, we were a lot older. We moved a lot slower. We limped a lot more. But, you know, I saw guys that I hadn't seen in years. And the first thing we did is we hugged and said, hey, man, love you. It's great seeing you. But you're right. You play. You spend so much time together. You sweat together. You bleed together. You cry together. You celebrate together. And it really is like a family.
Let's go to our next question from the students in the back. Step on up to the microphone. Go ahead with your question for Anthony Muñoz.
Dominic Valley, Camp McKinley Senior High School. And did you ever think about a career in the MLB, and do you think you would have had as much success?
First of all, yes, I thought a lot about a career in MLB, Major League Baseball. Baseball was my first love growing up as a kid in Southern California. I started playing competitive baseball at the age of 7 and 8. And that was my childhood dream, was to be a Major League Baseball player. You know, growing up the way I grew up, you know, you heard a lot of the environments that we've grown up in. My mom raised 5 kids by herself. I never knew my dad, never met my dad. My dad was in and out of prison when I was growing up. He's dead now, so I never met him. So mom was mom, dad, coach. And so my whole childhood dream was to play in the Major League so I could buy my mom a house. Played Little League, I played all through, you know, until I got to high school. I played 3 years. I was an all-state third baseman for 3 years in high school. And then when I got recruited to play football at college, I wanted to make sure that I could play baseball in college. And USC had a track record of letting guys do that, so they had agreed to let me play baseball at USC. But because of injuries, the 3 knee operations I had in 4 years, I only got to play 1 year of baseball in college. And even that year that I played, I was a sophomore. We went to the World Series. We won the World Series. I got to experience the national championship. I still thought maybe I could pitch, you know, beyond that. But then I had another knee operation my junior year, and by that time, you know, the confidence as a football player really started to arrive. And I thought, well, I think maybe my future's in football. At 6'6", 300 pounds, maybe not as a baseball player. But yeah, great question, and that was a dream. I can say even through my first 2 years in college, where I always wanted to play in the major leagues.
Thanks for that question.
Yeah,
thank you. We have one via Facebook here, Anthony. From Riverview Elementary in Cincinnati, do you think it's important to play multiple sports?
That's a great follow-up question to exactly what was asked there. As a high school student athlete, I played 4 years of football, basketball, and baseball. 4 years. Played, like I said, 1 year of baseball in college. If it would have been recommended to me in high school that I had to choose one sport, I didn't request a lot, but I would have gone to my mom and said, we have to find a high school where I can play all 3 sports. Wow. Because I am a firm believer multiple sport athletes is where it is. I mean, I look at what I did for 13 years in the NFL as an offensive lineman. I played basketball. I was playing basketball at 275 pounds. I had to move my feet to guard guys much lighter. I played third base at 270 pounds. I had to sit down and move my feet. So I see that those sports helped me to do what I did as a football player. And I might be mistaken, but I think in last year's draft, I think 30 or 31 of the #1 picks were multiple sport guys growing up.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. You might want to check that, but I thought I heard that stat. So I'm all for multiple sports.
Yeah, that's great. All right, we have more questions in the back from our students, and we'll get to some more via social media here in just a minute. So step on up to the microphone and go ahead with your question for Anthony Muñoz.
Hi, I'm Luis. I'm from Oakwood Middle School. And my question is, who was your favorite teammate in college and the NFL?
Wow. That's a real tough question. Who was my favorite teammate in college and in the NFL? Well, at USC, I had a lot of great teammates. I mean, my senior year at USC, we have 4 Pro Football Hall of Famers off my senior year at USC. But one of my favorite teammates played in the NFL, was a #1 pick in the NFL, played 9 years for the Kansas City Chiefs, was another offensive lineman. I roomed with him my freshman year in college, and that was Brad Buddy. We became like brothers in college, even though I had guys like Ronnie Lott and Marcus Allen and guys that I played with throughout my college career. Brad and I were pretty close through college. And then in the pros, man, that's another tough question because I have a lot of great teammates that I played with. And you spend so much time with guys of your own position. So during my career, offensive lineman guys like Max Montoya, who I played 10 years with. But then after my career, I play a lot of golf with a gentleman that kicked the entire time that I was there, Jim Breach, our kicker, who I say he is unlike most kickers. Jim Breach was a 3-sport athlete in high school. We play a lot of golf together. When we were playing, we played a lot of softball together, a lot of basketball together. So he's a guy that I've remained very close with after my playing career. So that's a great question.
Thank you for your question. We continue with more student questions for Anthony Muñoz. Go ahead, young man.
Hi, my name is Carmen Papaleo. I represent Oakwood Middle School, and my question is, what player gave you the hardest time trying to block him?
Wow. There was, I'd say probably 2 or 3 guys that I played that I knew. Basically, every guy I played, I mean, you had to be there and have your best game on Sunday. But guys like Bruce Smith, who played 19 years in the NFL, played with the Buffalo Bills the majority of his career. Joe Klecko, who's not in the Hall of Fame, but I truly believe he should be a Hall of Famer. The guy made All-Pro at 3 defensive line positions, nose tackle, defensive tackle, and defensive end. And then those are probably the 2 that, I played several times during my career and were probably the 2 toughest guys. There's a lot more that I have to add another guy because I played against him twice in my first 5 weeks in the NFL. And that was Leroy Selmon, another Hall of Famer, played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Thanks for your question.
Yeah.
When you're going against those guys that do you know that maybe they're not going to be Hall of Famers, but maybe this is one of the best to ever suit up? Can you tell from film study and then going against them head to head?
You can. Bruce Smith, I played against him, I think, his rookie year, and he was much bigger. He wasn't as great a shape he is later in his career, and I said, man, this guy is talented. He's going to be one of the best ones to play this game. And then, of course, several years later, he lost about 10, 15 pounds, and he just got into great shape. And I said, yep, this guy is amazing. And when you can put a defensive end, cock him over the nose tackle, and he's just as effective. So, yeah, you can play against guys early on, and you can say, look out, man, because every time you play against them, it's going to be a tough go. It's going to be a tough day at the office. And Monday morning, you're going to wake up, and you're going to need ice baths and a massage because your body's going to feel it.
The reason I bring that up, how many Browns fans do we have? A little round of applause for Browns fans? All right. Are you feeling better about the Browns this year? You feel good about what you're seeing? Yes? No? Yeah? No? Myles Garrett. And that's the reason I bring that up. You're a left tackle. This is a guy that's getting after the quarterback, and it seems early on, I don't want to put him here in Canton just yet, but it seems early on, you mentioned Bruce Smith, similar qualities.
Yeah. No, Myles Garrett, and I got to share a Myles Garrett story. We were at an event, and my son and I were together, and we broke the event, and all of a sudden there's a young man and the dad sitting in the hallway, and I look over and I said, this guy pretty impressive looking. It was Myles Garrett, and his dad had waited to say hi to my son and I after the event. And that speaks volumes of young people that are, up and coming. And I agree with you. I mean, I've watched them the last couple of years. I'm not one to put anybody in Canton until you give me 7, 8, 9, 10 great years. You start here early on and you end here. But he has the ability to start here and end here. So I'll be watching him. And I believe he has the ability, stay away from injuries and continue to do what he's doing now for years and years. Hopefully, as an old guy, I'll be around to see him get the gold jacket.
Let's go to another question via Facebook, and then we'll get to more students. Eric Proctor on Facebook asks, what advice would you give to a high school football team who has had losing seasons and wants to change their team's culture?
Well, first of all, I would say that there's got to be a group of individuals. And I'm not of the mindset that it has to be upperclassmen, juniors, seniors. I want the guys that are the hardest workers on the team to take the lead and be the examples to change the culture. To not be satisfied with just working mediocre, to be mediocre in your workouts. But you've got to be excellent in your workouts and set that example. And I think that's the only way you're going to change the culture of a team that's losing, is if you get a core group of guys that are going to say, together, we're going to bust it. We're going to show the rest of the team how we have to work and not cut corners to get out of this losing culture. And I think that's the way you do it.
All right, more questions in the back from our students for Anthony Muñoz. Go ahead, young lady.
Hi, my name is Lenady Rojas, and I come from Oakwood Middle School. My question is, how important is it to have a support group around you during a rough patch?
Another great question. Thank you for that. And I get a chance to speak a lot, speak to a lot of young people, speak to a lot of guys entering as rookies of the NFL. And one of the things I always say is that surround yourself with the great support team. Surround yourself with people that are going to hold you accountable, that aren't going to tell you how great you are all the time. I could have had friends that, I could have gone out on Sunday and had given up a sack or two, and Monday they see me and they pat me on the back and say, great job, you're doing, when I didn't. You need people that are going to hold you accountable, that are going to, really kind of steer you away from making those bad decisions. So I think a support group is very, very important, and that's one of the things that, I tell people when I got into the league a long time ago, I didn't know a whole lot. I don't know a whole lot more now, but I know that that is very important, and that's one of the things that both my wife and I, from being married as sophomore in college through now, that we have tried to do throughout our 40 years is not only as an athlete when your times are down, but as a person, you need to surround yourself with good people. That's a great question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Matt Rowe from St. Pius X in New Mexico asks, how do you feel about players who play with attitude or swagger and still succeed at a high level? You all right with that?
Well, I think I believe you can play with attitude and swagger, but it has to be physical. I'm not a big trash talk guy or guy that talks, even if you do back it up. I'm about going out and letting at the age of about 7 or 8, my older brother, who's 8 years older than me, and it rang in my mind through high school, college, and the pros, and even in life. He says, you don't have to talk about how good you are. If you're good, people are going to talk about you. And to me, little did I know that I was learning humility. But you can still play with intensity and swagger and attitude. But, there's the thing that just I do not like is you make a great play, you back a team up, but then you give that yardage back because you're doing this and getting unsportsmanlike conduct. Why? I mean, you've just made a great play. Just get back to the huddle and make another great play. And it takes me to an interview I saw. So Chuck Noll, all he did was coach the Pittsburgh Steelers to 4 Super Bowls in 1 decade, which has never been done. He was being interviewed, and he said, what is the difference between your team of the 70s And what you're watching, he's passed away, so this was probably 10 years ago. And the difference between the teams you coach and the players now, he said, well, I can tell you one thing. The guys I coached went out every Sunday and made great play after great play and got right back to the huddle and made another great play without saying anything. They knew that was their job. He said, guys nowadays make one great play out of maybe 10 or a dozen, and they're dancing and they're talking and they're... So I don't have a problem with swagger attitude. It's just what is the style? How are you doing that? I mean, football is a very, very emotional game. There's no question about it. But you have to be smart. You know, and it takes me, and I forgive me, but no, don't forgive me. This is what I do. I go to Scripture, and it says, God did not give us a spirit of timidity, but He gave us a spirit of strength and power and love. And the final part is the key, but self-control. So we are meant to be physical and intense, but have some self-control. Make a great play, back that team up, and let them work their way out of that hole. Don't give them the yardage back by causing or making some stupid mistake.
Questions from more students? Step on up to the microphone. Don't hesitate.
Hi, I'm Natalie Amon. I represent Lisbon Junior Senior High School. And my question is, who influenced you the most in your life, and how or why did that person do it?
What was the final part? Who influenced me and
how or why did that person do it?
How and why? Well, I had some great mentors, but I have to keep going back to my mom. My mom did not go on past high school into college but she worked 2 and 3 jobs. I mean, I'm talking about tough jobs. I'm talking about working at a chicken farm packing eggs. I'm talking about going out into the fields and picking grapes. I mean, hard labor jobs. And she taught me about really work ethic. She didn't have to talk about it. She taught us by the example. So that influence, I think, of responsibility, having to do our homework before we could play any sports after school during the summer. We had to do our chores before we could go out and play baseball. And I would love baseball, so I better get my work at home done if I want to go play 3 games a day. So the fact that she, later in her life, before we lost her, had rheumatoid arthritis and struggled physically, constant pain. The example she showed us, again, not by verbally saying you need to do this, need to do that, by actions showing us that you need to do this in order to get through life. And why? Because that's what she was meant to do as a mom, is to show her kids and let us see that we needed, regardless to what our environment was, is we couldn't let that get us stuck. We couldn't get stuck there and say, woe is me. I got a terrible upbringing, no money, no car, not a whole lot of clothes, but say, I'm going to excel in whatever I can and be the best, and that's what she taught us through her work ethic.
Thank you
for your question. More in the back of the room for Anthony Muñoz.
My name is Jason Stees from Lisbon David Anderson Junior Senior High. And my question for you is, what would you rather have? Your Hall of Fame ring of excellence, or your Super Bowl ring? Or a Super Bowl ring?
Well, I guess you'd get different answers from different guys, right? Since I lost 2, I'm going to say the Hall of Fame ring. I think, well, let's put it this way. When I entered in the NFL, I had my personal goals and I had team goals. Of course, the team goals were first, and that was to get a Super Bowl ring. I went to 2 Super Bowls, didn't get a ring. My personal goal wasn't to be a Hall of Famer, because that wasn't even in my vocabulary or my thought process. It was just to start every year that I put the Bengals uniform on and to be an All-Pro every year. So, it depends. I mean, I can't say one or the other. I mean, I know you're probably thinking this guy is wishy-washy, but I got the Hall of Fame ring, and I have 2 AFC championship rings, not a world championship ring. So, I don't know. I just got to say I have the Hall of Fame ring, so I'm going to be satisfied with that.
Thanks for your question. And we do get different responses
Yeah.
doing a lot of these.
Yeah.
Some players talk about, a lot of guys that maybe were the 51st, 52nd, 53rd player on the team get a Super Bowl ring, but only 318 of us have Hall of Fame rings. So there's that, this is the greatest team you could ever be a part of, and you're never going to lose a game here, right?
Well, and then another thing guys say, there's guys on Super Bowl winning teams, they maybe played in the Super Bowl once and they won, and they say, if I knew I was going to the Super Bowl and I knew that I was going to lose, I would not want to go and play. And I'm thinking, that's crazy, because look at how many Hall of Famers out of the 318 that have never played in the Super Bowl. A lot of them never played in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't understand. I mean, the fact that I went to 2 Super Bowls and lost twice, and I hated to lose as much as anybody. If I knew that I was going to go to the Super Bowl and lose, of course, I wouldn't want to do that, but I wanted to experience the Super Bowl. I don't understand how anybody could say, well, I got my Super Bowl ring, but if I knew I was going to go and lose, I wouldn't want to go. I was like, well, okay, we all have our different opinions.
Another question via social media from Rory A22 on Twitter. What are some of the things that your foundation does today? And congratulations, the Roberto Clemente Award. I know how important that is to you and what it means. He was an idol of mine growing up outside of Pittsburgh and everything. Yeah. So talk about your foundation, what you do.
Well, first of all, the Roberto Clemente Award, I mean, to get something that carries his name. And, of course, if you don't know already how important baseball was to me, and I remember him playing for the Pirates and watching him. And, I mean, that's one of the guys that I love to watch. So that is very special to receive that award from his son, in Chicago at the time. What we do at the foundation, we're 17 years old now. Our mission statement is to engage the tri-state area, which is where I live, Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, Southeast Indiana, to impact youth mentally, physically, and spiritually. And we do that through about 7 programs. We start out, we have a mentoring program for elementary kids. We usually take over 20 kids. We mentor them once a week throughout the whole school year. It's not unusual during a school year for those 20 kids to read over 300 books during our mentoring process, and to watch them elevate their study habits. And not only study habits, we try to build relationships with those kids. So we have our mentoring program. We have 2 what we call our character camps. We invite 150 young men for 2 different periods. We have one in the spring, and then we have one coming up at the end of November. And we take them off to camp. We do teach them a little football, but we work on character, team building, and just getting a chance to work together, work through solutions to problems and stuff. We have 2 of those. Coming up in about a week and a half, we have what we call our Youth Leadership Seminar. Over the last several years, we've averaged about 100 high schools, 12 to 1,300 students, where we bring them in for a full day, and we bring in leadership motivational speakers. We have breakout sessions. We have moderators that lead the breakout sessions, and then we have a full day, and at the end of the day, we send them with the charge to put together community service projects. And then we follow them, we track them, and I'll pick a couple winners, and I'll give them some money to use towards that. One example of one of the service projects that we've had done in this process, 4 years ago, we had a Cincinnati Public School put together, Aiken High School, that actually built, not only just funded, but built brick and mortar, built a school in Sierra Leone. And the year after they built the school, they teamed with a suburban school. They had a 5K walk, and they raised about $20,000 and gave it all to the school. And so those are the type of things. And then we have 2 types of scholarships. We give a one-time scholarship in April, 18 scholarships, 2 to 5,000 one-time scholarships. And then at our fundraising dinner in the summer, which is usually in June, we give anywhere from 4 to 8 $20,000 scholarships to seniors going to college. This year, we were fortunate enough to give 4 $20,000 scholarships, but then we gave a full tuition, $113,000 scholarship to a young lady. So we're, I think, 17 years old. We've raised close to $13 million to assist young people in the greater Cincinnati area. And we've taken a lot of what we started there, and working with Michael, my son, we've done character camps around the country, working with NFL, 27 NFL cities. We're actually, next month in November, we're going to Mexico for the 5th straight year, which is, we'll be there for 4 or 5 days doing the character camps there. So it's been fun for me to do what we're doing in Cincinnati and to be able to do it around the country. But that's what we do in Cincinnati with the foundation.
Good for you. Way to give back. More questions for Anthony Muñoz from our students. Go ahead, young man.
Hi, my name is Carion Black. I go to Martin Luther King Career Campus. What was it like playing football and baseball for a top school like USC?
What was it like? It was a great experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Back in the 70s when I was there, I mentioned some of the guys that I played with. Ronnie Lott, who's, as far as I'm concerned, one of the best safeties to ever play the game. I actually competed against Ronnie Lott in high school for 2 years, 3 sports. He was a, he was a shortstop, he was a defensive back, quarterback, and he was a point guard. So I played against him for 2 years in high school, and then we played together for 3 years at USC together. But to play with guys like Ronnie Lott and Marcus Allen and Bruce Matthews and, you know, Clay Matthews Sr., I always remember to say that because I'll say Clay Matthews. And, you know, so in football I played against guys, and like I said, off my, my team my senior year, I think we had 16 #1 picks in the NFL, you know, that year, and then years after that. In baseball, it was phenomenal. I mean, it was, I played for a coach, Rod Dato, who in 1978, when we won the World Series, that was his 12th World Series that he won, his 12th NCAA championship that he won. So, you know, to play at a tradition-rich football and baseball program, I mean, guys in football and, of course, baseball, guys like Tom Seaver, Dave Kingman, Rich Dower, Mark McGuire, you know, big unit, Johnson, Randy Johnson. I mean, those are some of the guys that played for that baseball program. Aaron Boone, who's now the manager for the Yankees, played at SC. I could go on and on, but it was very humbling. It was a great thrill for me to play at both those programs.
Are you the only, off the top of my head, are you the only Pro Football Hall of Famer that has a World Series championship ring from college, or is there somebody else?
I have not heard of anybody else that
I'm
does.
thinking the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people say, man, you won a ring in both sports. That is, let me just share a story. We had a backup quarterback at SC from 70 to 74. He was a backup quarterback, and he was a baseball player. The rule going to USC, if you're going to play baseball as a football player, you got to go through spring practice your freshman year. So he played baseball for 3 years. Those 3 years, they won 3, well, they actually won 4 consecutive, but he didn't play his freshman year. So he won 3 baseball rings, and then on the football team as a backup quarterback in 72 and 74, he got 2 national championship rings. So he came out of USC 4 years, he had 5 national championship rings, 3 in baseball and 2 in football. So, but as far as your question, I had to share that because that just blows me away. I was excited about getting one in each. But I don't know if there's any other Hall of Famer that has a national championship. Football or baseball or basketball would be another sport that somebody else might have played.
Interesting. We have more questions in the back, and then we've got some more social
Before we
media.
get to the question, there's one name at the Hall of Fame that I know would know.
Okay.
And that's Joe Horrigan. He's the guy who knows his history, and he'd probably know if there's anybody else.
Yes, young lady, go ahead.
My name is Ashley Arden, representing McKinley High School. And my question is, what does it mean to you to be a Hispanic American, and did your ethnicity affect you in some way at any point in your playing career?
That's a great question. Do you all hear the question? Being Hispanic background, and did it affect me in any way? I can't say that it ever did affect me. I never experienced that. So I'm thankful for that. Through my years growing up in a very diverse community, even when I got to Cincinnati, it wasn't very diverse. But I didn't see that it affected me at all. And the Hispanic community has grown in Cincinnati, which has been great to see. I don't think it's grown as rapidly as it has nationally, but it has grown in Cincinnati. But I can honestly say that it really didn't affect me at all. So therefore, I used it in a positive way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question. And let's see, we have one more? Okay, one more question in the back. Let's go to that. Get close to the microphone, state your name, school you represent, and go ahead with your question.
Hi, my name is Juan Ventura. I represent Kenton McKinley High School. And my question for you is, ¿qué significa para usted el Día de la Hispanidad? El mes de la Hispanidad, perdón.
What's it mean to me? It means a lot because it's a celebration, of culture. And I think we all need to be celebrated. I don't really care where you come from, but I think it's good that we can celebrate each other's culture, and that's how much it means to me to be able to celebrate. Thank you for that question.
Thank you.
All right.
And before we get out of here, any message you'd like to send our students out with as they leave today? Maybe some go get to explore the Hall of Fame, others going back to class?
What I would just say is, It doesn't matter where you come from, what you have, what you don't have, the color of your skin. Look for resources, look for mentors, look for opportunities to really dream and to dream big and accomplish those dreams. But it's not going to happen if you don't, like I said earlier, if you don't commit yourself to it. If you just sit there and believe and think that it's not going to be possible for you to do something, it's not going to happen. I could have sat there my senior year in college after my third knee operation when people told me that my football career was over, to look for something else to do, to give up that dream of playing football. I could have believed those people, and there was a lot of them, but I didn't believe what they were saying. I still had a passion in my heart. Take that passion that you have and go after that passion and be successful in whatever area you want to be. You can do it if you believe and work hard enough. It's the work, and do it the right way. And that's what I would say is my last remark to all of you.
We want to thank Anthony for being here today. Also, our special guest watching on Facebook Live, Beto Mejia, Coach San Juan Mendoza, as well as Mario Longoria and Jorge Iber. We want to thank you all for coming out today for your questions. We hope you enjoyed and learned something from Anthony Muñoz. How about a nice round of applause for our special guest? And this concludes this version of Heart of a Hall of Famer with Anthony Muñoz. Thank you for coming out today. Enjoy the Hall of Fame if you're headed there. And if you're headed back to school, keep studying, keep your nose to the grindstone. And who knows, maybe you'll end up like Anthony, maybe one day here in the Pro Football Hall of Fame or somewhere in business and become an owner of a business or a president of a company. Thanks for coming out today.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.